Realizing your ideals. By means of the application of the combined powers of ideation and volition, of thought and will, employed according to the methods of the three formulas of idealization, affirmation, and actualization, respectively, you proceed to realize, i.e., to make real, to convert into actual objective existence, that which you have first created in ideal form, i.e., in the form of ideal image or thought. In other words, by employing these powers according to the said methods you proceed to materialize your idealized forms. Inasmuch as these idealized forms represent your strongest desires, you are here proceeding to remake your world of experience according to your heart's desire. In addition to the instruction already given you along these lines, and for the purpose of summing up the essential features of the preceding instruction, we shall now present to your attention and consideration the leading principles of the process of realizing your ideals, of materializing that which you have idealized, of creating conditions in accordance with your heart's desire. The essential base. To begin with, you must always proceed from the base, ground, and foundation of power, the ultimate principle of power. You must never lose sight of the fact that all personal power, all the personal power you ever have had, have now, or ever can have, must have power as its original source and fount. This original source must never be lost sight of by you. The more you recognize and realize that power is your great reservoir and storehouse of power, the closer will be your conscious relation to that original source, and the greater will be your ability to draw upon that great reservoir or storehouse. You must always remember that recognition and realization must always precede manifestation. In the degree of your conscious recognition of power in thought, and of your conscious realization of it in feeling, so will be the degree of your conscious manifestation of it in action. Students often become so carried away by the wonderful possibilities and the actual manifestations of personal power arising from the application of the principles and methods involving will, ideative energy, force, and power, according to the methods of the three formulas, that in time they tend to forget or to overlook this fundamental fact that all personal power must proceed from power. They ignore the source of their supply. This, however, is a grave error, for by proceeding in this manner you will tend to close the channel of infinite supply, and thereby limit, lessen and restrict the inflow of power from power. Such course is akin to that of the car conductor who allows his trolley pole to become detached from the supply wire, and who thereby loses his connection with the power which operates the driving machinery of his car. It would really be better for you to forget or to overlook all the rest of this instruction, rather than this, its basic and fundamental principle. The focal center. Second only to the recognition, realization, and manifestation of power, is the similar recognition, realization, and manifestation of that focalized center of power which is your I am I, your master self, your real self. This I am I, as we have repeatedly told you, is a focalized center of being and power, created and established by power in its cosmic manifestation. The I am I is to your individual world of experience at which power is to the cosmos. It is the supreme fact of your individual existence, just as power is the supreme fact of all existence. It is the focalized center through which power flows and operates in your individual activities. It is the reflection of the sun of power in the dewdrop of your mental and physical being. You must always think of, picture, and act according to the idea of your I am I as being a central point in your world of experience, around which all the rest moves, and circles, and passes in review. You are the real thing in the passing show which passes before you in an ever-changing, ever-proceeding stream, and which is presented to you for your edification, instruction, and experience. You are it, in that world of experience, the one thing which you know from actual experience to be real. You are that something or somewhat which would continue to exist even were all that world of experience wiped out of existence, which will remain constant and unaffected so long as it is maintained as a focal point by power. You must always keep in mind this fact of your own reality and your place in your world of experience. This consciousness of egohood must be brought to a pivotal and focused point of intense recognition and realization in thought and feeling. The consciousness of your reality in constancy, amidst the world of changing things and passing scenes, must be acquired by you. It must become a part of your inmost consciousness of thought and feeling. It is the real essence of the practical application of personal power. You must grow to feel that whatever else may change or pass away, you, the I am I, will remain, abiding, constant, and identical. You must strive to acquire the consciousness of the philosopher who, being told that the world was coming to an end, calmly replied, "Well, what of it? I can get along without it." The thought of the crash of worlds must not disturb you. You must learn to think and to feel that these things move me not. But, remember always, that this, I am I, which is you, is not the John Smith, or the Mary Jones, part of you, the part made up of the instruments and machinery of your personal expression and manifestation. It is not to the mere garments of personality that you are ascribing such great facts of being, it is to that which bears those garments for the time being. These incidental trappings of personality are but the things of the impermanent, changing, passing, phenomenal world which you are now experiencing in consciousness. The I am I is that reality which transcends these phenomenal instruments, machinery, garments, or attachments which in their aggregate constitute the John Smith or Mary Jones aspect of your individuality. Do not allow yourself to become entangled in consciousness with this outer aspect of personality. Free your inner individuality from it in consciousness. Do not allow yourself to become spiritually hidebound by this outer skin of your personality. Do not exchange your birthright of permanent individuality for the mess of pottage of transient personality. You must lay aside forever the erroneous notion that you are a mere worm of the dust, a lowly creature fit only to crawl along on its belly, begging that it may not be trodden upon. You must realize that you are you, a magnificent manifestation and expression of power. For you, the processes of evolution have toiled and labored for many ages. For you, nature has undergone countless labor pains through an ages-long period of delivery. For you, time has waited long. Now that you are here, in your present state of personal existence, it is your right and duty to express and to manifest the full might and power that is in you, and to move forward fulfilling your manifest destiny. You are you, and you are ready to express yourself to the full measure of your inherent capacities. In all your work, in all your play, in all your activities, physical and mental, carry with you the consciousness that you are you, a center of power in the great cosmic manifestation of power. Based upon this consciousness, all that you do, all your mental work, all your physical work. Falter not, strong. Recognize and realize always that you are a focalized, concentrated point of reality, a focal point, and center of the presence power of power. Recognize and realize that back of you, around you, and in you, is power, all the power there is, and that in the measure that you allow it to flow freely through you, that will be the measure of your personal power. Learn to affirm the I am I, in full consciousness of what the words mean. Mentally picture yourself as that I am I, and then live up to and act out the truth of your being so expressed in thought, in feeling, and in words. By the careful observance of the foregoing instruction concerning the I am I, conceived as a focalized center of the power, and as being the permanent, constant, identical element and factor of your being, you will find yourself unfolding into a greater and far more efficient phase of personal power. You will not only be creating a more definite, more intensely concentrated, and more highly focalized center of manifestation of personal power, the source and real nature of which you have recognized and realized abiding on the higher and hidden planes or levels of your consciousness, your subconsciousness and your superconsciousness, you will also proceed to the gradual unfoldment of a higher power of knowing, of feeling, and of doing, by means of the increased efficiency and power of your instruments and machinery of expression. This teaching of the I am I, its powers and its possibilities, is not milk for babes, it is rather nourishing food for strong men and those who wish to become strong. The practical test of truth is, will this make me stronger, better, and more efficient? This teaching will meet the test of truth, for it will assuredly make you stronger, better, and more efficient. It is in accordance with the law of evolution, which law proceeds to manifest on the spiritual and mental planes, as well as the physical plane. Fall in line and proceed with the law of cosmic evolution, and the powers of the cosmos will come to your aid, and you will become as one of the elect. If you oppose or run contrary to the law, you will be ruthlessly pressed to the wall, and discarded as unfit. In the one case, you are nourished, supported, strengthened, and encouraged by the law. In the other case, you are relentlessly crowded out by its operations. We here quote from the statement of one of the present writers, made in much earlier work from his pen. This statement is quite as true now as when it was written many years ago. If you are a true individual, this teaching is just what you want. This is also true if you are not yet a true individual, but earnestly desire to be one. But if you are a weakling, and prefer to remain so, instead of rising and claiming your birthright of strength, your heritage of power, then, remain as you are, and depart in peace. In that case, you leave these teachings for those of the race who will not sell their birthright of power for the mess of pottage of negative content and sheep-like passivity and docility, but who boldly claim their own, and demand their rightful portion. For those strong brothers of yours are the individuals, the true individuals, who are the coming inheritors of the earth. Realizing the ideal body. By the employment of the principles of combined ideation will, along the lines of idealization, affirmation, and actualization, you may build or rebuild your physical body along the lines laid out and patterned in your mind. You may make yourself over, physically in this way. Degree of successful manifestation depending upon your degree of successful recognition and realization of the principles involved, and upon your degree of the efficient application of those principles. This is no new and strange doctrine. On the contrary, it is being taught and practiced by the many schools of mind cure, mental healing, faith cure, metaphysical healing, etc., which have been so much in public view during the past quarter century. Thousands have been transformed from weak, sick persons into strong, healthy individuals, by means of methods similar in general nature to those presented to you in this material. Moreover, by means of systems of physical culture employing at least some of the elements of idealization, and the employment of ideation will, many have literally made over their physical bodies, building them up from frail, puny, undeveloped forms into strong, sturdy, efficient, well-developed physical instruments of expression. The general principles involved in the process of realizing the ideal body are those already presented to you. The methods employed are those likewise presented to you in this material. You start with the consciousness that the physical body, and all of its parts and organs, is but the instrument of the I am I, master self and real self, the latter being the focalized center of power. The master self assumes control of its physical instrument and machinery and proceeds to build it up according to the highest possible pattern, design, or mold. In doing so, it employs the combined principles of ideation will, the ideal form energized by willpower. It proceeds by idealization, or the creation and projection of the ideal image, or thought form. It accompanies this by the appropriate affirmation of the idea or thought. It needs to apply the method of actualization, by means of which it lives out the idea, acts out the part, and also performs such physical actions, exercises, and methods as may seem appropriate, and observes such basic, natural laws of health and physical well-being as are announced by the best thinkers along these lines. Such are the general principles and methods employed in the processes of realizing the ideal body, of materializing into objective reality the perfect, healthy, strong, efficient body pictured in the mind as the ideal form. If you will apply the principles previously announced and explained in the preceding sections of this, particularly those included in the description of the 3 formulas, and will employ the methods also herein stated and explained, carefully and intelligently adapting them to the special requirements of your individual case, you should be able to manifest to a satisfactory degree the results which you seek. All this will require careful and persistent effort, careful attention, and insistent perseverance. We are not offering you a magic wand, by means of the waving of which you may gain in a moment perfect health and perfect physical well-being. But, if you will observe the proper methods, based upon the sound fundamentals herein stated, and will manifest definite ideas, insistent desire, confident expectation, persistent determination, and balanced compensation, there is no reason why you should not acquire that which you seek. All this means work, earnest work, persistent work, but the end is worth all the work which you bestow upon the task. Realizing the ideal mind. What has just been said concerning the process of realizing the ideal body, may also be said concerning the process of realizing the ideal mind. By the employment of the general principles of combined ideation will, applied along the lines of idealization, affirmation, and action, you may develop and cultivate your mind as a whole, or any of its special faculties or powers, to a high degree or state of efficiency. Here, as in the case of the physical body, the I is in control of its instruments and its machinery of expression, and is able to cultivate and develop, train, and direct the operation of those instruments or machinery. The I, or master self, assumes active control of the mental faculties and begins the process of exercising, energizing, stimulating, and generally building up and rendering effective these instruments of its expression. In this work, the I calls to its aid the combined powers of ideation will, and employs the same along the lines of idealization, affirmation, and actualization. All of the processes are familiar to you by reason of their repeated presentation to you in this material. In idealization, the mind, or its special faculties under treatment, is pictured by the ideal image or thought form as it is desired to become and to be. The ideal is kept constantly in mind, as a pattern or mold along the lines of which materialization shall proceed. Affirmations or verbal statements tend to crystallize the idea or thought expressed in idealization. It gives body and substance to the idea or thought so pictured, and thus furnishes a firmer substance upon which materialization may proceed. In the processes of actualization, however, the mind, or its special faculties, is furnished with tasks calculated to exercise, unfold, develop, cultivate, strengthen and train the faculties or faculty under treatment. Mental faculties, like physical muscles, may be fully developed by use, exercise, and actual employment and work. They grow strong and efficient only by contact with, and exercise upon, the actual work for which they are designed. One must actually think in order to develop thinking power, one must actually will in order to develop willing power, one must actually perceive and observe in order to develop perceptive power, one must actually plan and invent in order to develop creative mental power, and so on along the entire list of the mental powers. Mental development, cultivation, and training always involve mental employment, exercise, use, and work. There is no exception to this rule, and any attempt to escape it results only in disappointment. So, in realizing the ideal mind, the processes of actualization are vitally essential, but they may be increased in power and effect, and given definite direction and form by following the processes of idealization and affirmation, respectively. The mental faculties are classified as follows: 1. Faculties of thought, 2. Faculties of feeling, 3. Faculties of will. Thought consists of a. Sensation, b. Perception, c. Conception, d. Generalization, e. Comparison, f. Deliberation, g. Judgment, the higher processes of reasoning being conducted along the lines of induction and deduction, respectively. Memory and imagination are also important phases of thought activities. Feeling consists of a. Simple feeling, b. Complex feeling, or emotion, c. Desire. Will consists of a. Desire will, b. Deliberative will, c. Action will, in all of their various forms and phases. In the process of actualization directed toward the end of realizing the ideal mind, you should consult the best textbooks treating upon the special subjects of the particular faculties, or groups of faculties, and containing scientific exercises for the cultivation, development, and training of such faculties. There are a number of such good textbooks on the market, which may be found at any good bookstore. In the present volume, the full general principles and the methods of applying them are given. By applying these principles according to these methods, wonderful results may be attained in the direction of general mind development by actualization. But, it will be readily seen that owing to the general nature and broad field of the present material, it is impossible to present here in extended form the details of the cultivating, developing, and training by actualization of the several sets of faculties above referred to. In fact, as we have stated, several separate volumes are required to contain such detailed presentation of these several important subjects. Therefore, we must refer to such separate and special books to such students who may wish to pursue any of these special subjects in further detail. Realizing the ideal conditions or environment. To realize the ideal conditions and environment, to manifest in material objective existence and form those daydreams of the conditions and environment in accordance with the heart's desire, surely this is to work a miracle of everyday life. Yet such miracles performed by successful men and women on all sides, in our own times, and have been so performed in the past by those individuals who were able to transform thought into action, and to transmute the ideal conditions and environment into those of materialized and objective form. By the application of the principles and methods which we have asked you to consider in this material, you may reasonably expect to attain quite satisfactory results along these particular lines of manifestation. Indeed, it is considered more than probable that the similar successes of the men and women above referred to have in a large measure been due to the more or less unconscious application of these basic principles, and the use of similar methods. Many persons who never have heard these principles described, explained, or illustrated, have intuitively become aware of them, and have applied them by methods similar to those herein announced by us. These principles and methods were not discovered nor invented by us, they are universal and have always been employed to some extent, in some form and degree, by men. We have here merely stated them formally, explained their nature and action, and have pointed out the methods which the experience of the race has found to be the most effective. In the present usage of the terms, conditions means state or situation with regard to external circumstances or environment, and environment means that which environs or surrounds, surrounding conditions, circumstances, influences, or forces. In short, condition environment are seen to mean such portion of the external world as affects the individual by reason of its influence upon him. If one is able to control and direct his conditions and environment, he is able to surround himself with conditions of life and details of the environment, in accordance with his heart's desire, and with his daydreams, ideals, plans, hopes, and ambition. Our teaching is that man is not a slave of circumstances or conditions, not a prisoner to his environment. We hold, on the contrary, that the strong individuals of the race have always shown their power to modify, change, improve, transform and transmute, at least to a considerable degree, their original environment and their original conditions of life. The history of every successful man and woman will show such to be the case, and all the teachings of our young folks are based upon such premises. The difference between the slave mind and slave soul, and the mastermind and master soul, is largely the submission of the former to its environment and its conditions, and the refusal of the latter so to submit, accompanied by its determination to create its own environment and to determine its own conditions of life. The miracle of realizing the ideal conditions and environment, of making the dreams come true, and of materializing one's ideal images is nonetheless a miracle because it happens to be a common and familiar occurrence. Such miracles are being performed every day, they are possible of being so performed, anywhere and everywhere, now and at any time, by anyone or everyone who will put into operation the right principles, and who will employ the most effective methods. We believe that the principles and methods set forth in this material contain the essence and cream of the best human thought on this subject, based upon the best experience of the race. We believe that the essential features of such principles and methods have been involved in the mental processes of the successful men and women who have conquered and recreated their environment, and broken down and then recreated their circumstances in life. And now, to apply the principles and methods of our teaching to this process of realizing the ideal conditions and environment, how must you begin? Well, first of all, you must set into active operation the twin powers of ideation and will. You must start with the creation and establishment, the support and maintenance, of a strong dynamic idea, or creative ideation, of the general conditions and environment which you wish to realize and materialize in the objective form in the material world. You should here carefully reread and restudy what we have said to you in the section of this material entitled, The Twin Manifestation of Power. You must raise the giant of ideation to the shoulders of the giant of will, and then bid the twin giants to proceed to their task. You must pour into your ideal image the energizing and vitalizing power of will. You must not only strengthen your ideal image by means of idealization and affirmation, but you must also strengthen and energize your steam of will by faith and confident expectation, and by keeping fiercely burning the fires of desire. You must fill yourself with definite ideals, insistent desire, confident expectation, and persistent determination so that that which you are holding in your mind in the idealized form shall be manifested in materialized form and activity in your world of circumstances and environment. You must establish the oneness of idea and the oneness of feeling which distinguishes the purposive will. Remember our illustration of the magic lantern, with its fierce flame of desire supporting and sustaining the light of will. The light of will beats strongly and persistently upon the lantern slide of idealization, upon which is painted or photographed the ideal image or thought form, the picture is then thrown clearly and strongly upon the screen or sheet of the ethereal substance of the cosmos, and there is reproduced in materialized form. Keep in mind this illustration, for it well symbolizes the process of the materialization of the ideal, the transmutation of the ideal image or thought form into the material form. Now reread and restudy carefully the preceding section of this material, entitled The Three Formulas. Read and study carefully every word of what we have there stated concerning the respective processes of idealization, affirmation, and actualization. Then apply these processes to the task before you. Idealize the conditions and environment which you wish to materialize and realize in objective form. Affirm the idea by expressing it in words, and in affirming its reality. Actualize the idea by acting out the part which you must play in relation to the conditions and environment which you are now proceeding to materialize according to the idealized form and affirmed statement, and proceed to perform the actual work on the mental and physical planes which are necessary to perfect the process and to accomplish the end sought. Form the clear mental image of that which you wish to materialize. Vitalize and energize that image or picture by willpower aroused and sustained by faith and desire. Project that ideal image or thought form into the ethereal substance, there to be materialized. Keep the picture well defined, stylized by positive affirmation of its reality, and statements of your confident expectation of the outcome. Speak the word of its realization early and often, and with the spirit and tone of certainty. Deny out of existence the obstructing and opposing obstacles to its accomplishment. Create the mental path, by actualization, and in the same way prepare the physical ground for the realization. Perform each and all of these processes earnestly, confidently, persistently, patiently, insistently, with the mind one-pointed, and with every element of your being directed and devoted to the task. Finally, we wish to direct to your careful attention and consideration a certain course of procedure to be followed by all individuals wishing to achieve success and to reach the heights of attainment in any line or field of human endeavor, physical, mental, or spiritual. This course of procedure was taught, at least in principle, by some of the oldest teachers of the race. It formed a part of the inner teaching of the ancient mysteries of many lands. It is based upon common sense and also uncommon sense, upon actual experience and upon those intuitive glimpses of the higher truth which wise men and women have acquired through the channels of the superconscious faculties of the mind. It was and is followed in principle not only by the ancient mystics and their modern successors but also by the most hard-headed, cold-blooded, practical men of affairs of today. It is universal in its field and scope, and in its application in actual practice. It is known as the Master Formula of Attainment, and it will be presented to you in the following section of this material.